It seems like we have found out the real reason why Oprah Winfrey is hiding, as more and more exposés are coming out to tell us about the dark side of Hollywood. It turns out she has a dark side too. From lying about her early years to boost her popularity, to cases involving minors participate in inappropriate acts at her school in South Africa, even going further to lure in women for Harvey Weinstein. But the most shocking of all, her deeper connections with Diddy. Over the past decades, Oprah Winfrey has been at the center of fame, truly standing out as one of the most powerful female figures in the world, covering magazine after magazine telling her story, which has inspired millions of her fans, while at the same time presenting this cool philanthropic billionaire persona for years. However, it's clear Oprah is hiding something from us. In this video, we are taking off her mask to discover what's underneath it, as she has found herself in a number of controversies in the past years. All along, the evidence has been in plain sight, including shocking details that have never been disclosed about her on YouTube before.
Oprah's Leadership Academy, a school for girls in South Africa, has been hit with another scandal. Now, 7 students have been suspended for allegedly harassing some other students.
When Katie met Harvey, she met Harvey with Oprah. If Oprah's with Harvey, then why should I worry about it? I mean, Oprah is the world's mom. Who is not going to trust the person who's next to Oprah?
For years, people used to say we were gay or that we were, but and listen, we were up against that for forever. No, I mean, and people still.
If Oprah was watching this, what would you tell her?
I would say, Oprah Winfrey, you know what you need to do, and stop hiding behind what you call was negative comments, what you call, oh, I don't even deal with things like that, because what people are beginning to do is see you for who you are.
To believe that you can take them as property and them and sell them, and it's something from the dark ages that is just so horrific, but
Until that woman says, let me apologize to you publicly, it'll be to the day I leave this earth, because what you did was malicious, and it was intentional, and it was ugly.
I have actually included the timestamps in the description for you to follow along. One of the things that stand out in Oprah's life are the inconsistencies in her upbringing. According to Oprah, she spent her first 6 years with her grandmother, as her mother left for Milwaukee for a better job, leaving them in Mississippi. However, this was debunked by her cousin in an unauthorized biography written by American journalist Kitty Kelly, who conducted 850 interviews for her book, Oprah, a biography. Kitty Kelly is often described as a trash and burn investigator for spilling secrets of the likes of Frank Sinatra, George W. Bush, and the British royals. In the biography, Catherine Carr Esters, Oprah's cousin, describes that Oprah's mother Vernita was with her every day for the first 4.5 years, until she went north to Milwaukee to find a better job. She even recalls driving Vertina Lee to Milwaukee herself in 1958. This photo also sides with what Winfrey's cousin said, as she is clearly seen with her mother. In this photo, I'm sure she looks younger than 6, and if she claims she saw her mother at 6, then when was this photo taken? In Oprah's story, she also states that when she was sent to her mother in Milwaukee at the age of 6, she was discriminated due to her color.
I remember the first night entering into that house and being told that I wouldn't be able to sleep with my mother and I wouldn't be able to sleep inside the house. It was because of the color of my skin. I don't know how I knew that, but I did.
But her cousin also debunks this too, stating, Oprah slept on the porch in the back of the rooming house only because Vernita had to take care of her baby and there was just one bedroom. The biography points out that Oprah growing up was an uncontrollable teenager who would do anything for money, citing an incident where she stole from her mother to buy a pair of stylish glasses, also citing the time she ran away from home and stayed at the streets for a week. The book further quotes Oprah saying that at age 14, she hustled singer Aretha Franklin when the singer sat in a limousine in Milwaukee, telling Franklin she was an abandoned child who needed money to return home to Ohio. Franklin reportedly gave her $100. During a 1988 interview with Barbara Walters, Oprah herself also admits that at that age she would sneak in boys at home.
And so I used to run away from home, and I used to, bring boys home when my mother wasn't there, and cause all kinds of problems for myself.
Oprah has also expressed how she grew up so poor that she even recalls having cockroaches as pets since her family was poor and they couldn't afford to buy her dolls. But sources later claimed that this was a rebrand and an over-exaggeration to boost her popularity.
They have a complicated relationship with Oprah, that she has exaggerated her abject poverty, but I don't diminish that because she was born poor in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, but it wasn't quite as bad as Oprah says, and her Aunt Catherine again says that these are exaggerations that Oprah likes to embellish because it makes the story more dramatic. And Oprah is an actress. We can't ever forget that she is an actress.
According to Kitty's biography, Catherine, Winfrey's cousin, says she once confronted Oprah about the stories and that Oprah once replied, "That's what people want to hear. The truth is boring." She even claimed that Oprah was somehow spoilt since she was the only child at home and that she would receive all the gifts and toys. Kitty Kelly made a lot of claims in her book, and one of the most notable ones was discovering who Oprah's real father was. And it's not Vernon Winfrey, as many know, though she refused to give out his names. Vernon Winfrey, the man who raised her, was also interviewed about Oprah's stories about her past, and he replied, "She may be admired by the world, but I know the truth. The two of us remain ashamed." And this leaves us with this big question, wondering what could have happened between the two that still remains a mystery, but doesn't sound anything like great. The details exposed in the biography are pretty alarming, but what is even more alarming about Oprah is the number of controversies that she has been involved in for the past years. And let's start with what happened in 2007. Oprah, having befriended Nelson Mandela in the early 2000s, she promised him that she would build a high-quality educational boarding schools for disadvantaged girls in South Africa. And she did just that in 2007, opening the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. However, the school started off with criticism in its early stages regarding the extravagance of the whole project. The school was equipped with a beauty salon, a world-class yoga studio, and 2 theaters, one outdoor and the other indoor, among others. It was stated that the school costed $40 million. But remember, this school was set up for the talented but disadvantaged girls who were probably expected to come from humble backgrounds that probably just needed good quality education, not fancy amenities. At first, parents complained about Oprah's school being run as a prison, as they were permitted to only 2 hours of visit on a specific Sunday every month. And obviously you can tell how uncomfortable those situations were. In addition, students were only allowed to access their phones over the weekends, limiting communications between the girls and their families. School authorities stated that Oprah, who had returned at the school in that period for a short while, had spoken to concerned parents, but she wasn't intending to do any major change in the visiting schedule of the school. But it was later that year that the school did face its first major controversy. Reports came out that girls from the school were being and physically abused by the dormitory matron, a then 27-year-old female, with some reports citing 6 girls and others citing 15 girls. You may want to take a blind eye on Oprah for this, but the fact that she handpicked all of the 152 students by herself for the first year of the school, and then she fails to control the administration of the school to prevent such incidents to happen, is absurd. In 2009, the school faced another scandal as 7 girls were punished for displaying inappropriate behavior towards fellow girls. According to the Afrikaans on Sunday newspaper, one 15-year-old preyed on a schoolmate and coerced others into lying to officials investigating the alleged incidents. In 2011, another one struck, and it involved a student giving birth at her school. A 17-year-old student was being treated at a hospital nearby for excessive bleeding when the doctors discovered a dead body of a newborn in a bag she possessed. Although no charges were pressed against anyone, authorities believed that the student had delivered the baby inside Oprah's school. Many don't actually trust the extravagance of the school, with some even believing that it could actually be the perfect recipe for luring in young girls for trafficking, as more and more rumors spread on the internet. And if you are not yet shocked about Oprah, trust me, her connections with PDF files and abusers will shock you. Starting with Harvey Weinstein, Harvey Weinstein was one of Hollywood's biggest names, and he has produced several major successful movies over decades. Harvey Weinstein and Oprah Winfrey being prominent figures in the entertainment industry, their chances of crossing paths were high, and it actually happened in 2013. Oprah Winfrey was cast in Lee Daniels' The Butler, which was to be produced and distributed by the Weinstein Company. Oprah decided to work with Harvey Weinstein, despite his decades-long accusation dating all the way back from the 1970s. The movie was a box office success, but do you know who else benefited? It was Oprah, as she secured the TV rights of the movie to be aired on her network OWN. Oprah had launched her network months before the finale of her talk show, and it was struggling in public ratings. Therefore, this deal would help bolster the network's public opinion. On acquiring the rights to the movies, TWC co-chairman Harvey Weinstein said, "It's been an honor to work alongside Oprah Winfrey, whose performance and support on the picture have been second to none, and we're thrilled that her network has come on board," expressing how he welcomed his new partnership with Oprah Winfrey. But was it really a new partnership? From a business perspective, this was good for Oprah, who saw it as a way to boost her struggling network, and the two would be seen on multiple occasions celebrating together, showing how strong their friendship was. But she didn't know she would be later held in a difficult stand. On October 5, 2017, the New York Times journalists Jodi Kantor and Meghan reported with substantial evidence about Harvey Weinstein's misconduct throughout his time in Hollywood. This started a domino effect which eventually ended Weinstein's career, as more than 80 victims flooded the media telling their stories, which pushed the Me Too movement. This was a huge thing, as celebrities had never come out this many to accuse a single person. Harvey was dismissed from multiple positions, including getting fired from his movie company. Oprah herself did confirm in 2018 that her relationship with Harvey Weinstein was already there before even that movie. And we know this because she was hosted on Goop's podcast, where she admitted. She says the once powerful producer behind The Butler used to call her and demand talk show appearances for stars of his films, which means she would bring on these stars to help promote Weinstein's projects, and taking into account that the show ended in 2011, it means they were actually friends before 2011. She added, "What I knew was Harvey was a bully. Was I friendly with Harvey? Yes, I was friendly with Harvey. Of course, I didn't know any of this was going on," said Winfrey, denying about knowing the allegations. However, other sources suggest otherwise. First, listen to one of Harvey Weinstein's victims, Katie Noble, explaining how she got to know about the movie producer.
And he was with people in which I admired. Oprah Winfrey there with him, who entered the room and was swinging off his arm and just seemed like a very dear friend. You know, meeting Oprah was like, oh my God, like I would have thought that I would have to be someone who's established, who everyone would have had to know about before I was privileged enough to meet someone like Oprah. So that gave me so much confidence in him at the time when he approached me. I thought, obviously this man has something amazing in store for me.
When Katie met Harvey, she met Harvey with Oprah.
With Oprah?
With Oprah. If Oprah's with Harvey, then why should I worry about it? I mean, Oprah is like the world's mom. Who is not going to trust the person who's next to Oprah?
As Harvey's career was taking a nosedive, everyone was watching closely and observing whatever was unfolding in the news. Oprah Winfrey, a woman known for fighting for women and also who was linked to Weinstein in the past, took it to Facebook and posted this on October 12th. "I've been processing the accounts of Harvey Weinstein's hideous behavior and haven't been able to find the words to articulate the magnitude of the situation." And then she quoted filmmaker James Shammas's message. "This is the story of one predator and his many victims. But it is also a story about an overwhelming systemic enabling. And until that story is fully told, we will fall far short of stopping future depredations on a similar scale." To many, this seemed weird, as Oprah didn't express any personal opinion, but rather just generalizing the matter to the whole industry by quoting someone else's message in an attempt many would term as beating around the bush, as she just wanted to go with the flow of events at the time. The fact that she took a whole week to comment about something huge like this was also questionable. On the 14th of the same month, new headlines emerged that Oprah was really willing to be on Harvey's side. According to TMZ, Weinstein said that the queen of all media personally called him to say she was ready to publicly declare her support of him, claims which Oprah's trusted sources dismissed. The site reports that Weinstein told his team and friends on multiple occasions that Oprah called him earlier this week, urging him to speak out and defend himself. And once he did that, she would come out and support him. While he claimed that several powerful figures in Hollywood have voiced their support of him, he repeatedly highlighted Oprah. As she was promoting her book, Wisdom of Sundays, she was hosted on CBS Morning, and one of the issues that came up was one involving Harvey Weinstein. Norah O'Donnell spilled the beans when she asked about the Harvey situation, right from the way she imposed her question.
Let's talk about what's happening with Harvey Weinstein. I know you posted on Facebook already, but you haven't kind of spoken yet publicly about what's going on.
I know you've posted on Facebook already, but you haven't spoken out yet publicly about what is going on. This clearly implies that the Facebook post made no sense, as I mentioned earlier, and that the people really wanted to know her say about the situation. But once again, Oprah just kept on beating around the bush, just like in her Facebook post, just generalizing the problem to the whole industry. And she didn't answer the question she was asked.
This is a watershed moment. And if we make this just about Harvey Weinstein, then we will have lost this moment. I think this is a moment where no matter what business you work in, there have been women who not only had the disease to please, that's a part of it, but who felt that in order to keep my job, in order to keep my position, in order to keep moving forward, I've got to smile, I've got to look the other way, I got to pretend he didn't say that, I got to pretend he didn't touch me. I think those days are about to be over.
It was even absurd that she was there only to promote her book, but not to talk about the Harvey Weinstein situation. I mean, people were doing interviews as victims were flooding the media, and other Hollywood big names were disgracing Weinstein's behavior, and all she did was a Facebook post. Remember, this is a woman who has fought against predatory behavior through her talk shows for decades, and she has had multiple victims on the show too, and she just went almost silent in such situation. In January of the followed year, Oprah gave a speech at the Golden Globes after receiving her Cecil B. DeMille Award, once again talking about women who are being abused. And as you have guessed it, she didn't have anything conclusive. Again, generalizing the problem, this time stating that this not only happens to the entertainment industry, but others industries as well, like the tech industry and others. The following day, singer Seal quickly came out and slammed Oprah in an Instagram post. He posted a meme photo which had Oprah kissing Harvey on the cheek, describing it as, "When you have been part of the problem for decades, but suddenly they all think you are the solution." Seal added in the caption, "You'd heard the rumors, but you had no idea he was actually serially assaulting young starry-eyed actresses who in turn had no idea what they were getting into. My bad." But it turns out Seal was not the only celebrity who called out Oprah, as actress Rose McGowan did the same thing, posting on Twitter, "I am glad more are seeing the ugly truth of @Oprah. I wish she were real, but she isn't." From being pals with Weinstein to abandoning and destroying Russell Simmons' victims, she is about supporting a sick power structure for personal gain. She is as fake as they come. #Lizard. And now she introduces a new character to our story, Russell Simmons. Russell Simmons is a music executive and co-founder of Def Jam Recordings, whose allegations came to light in 2017 during the Me Too movement. First, it was two women who came out accusing the music mogul of misconduct, model Carrie Clausen and screenwriter Jenny Lumet. As things escalated with more victims coming out, a documentary, On the Record, was set to be filmed containing Russell Simmons' victims, to which Oprah jumped on, and she was going to executively produce it in 2019. The documentary was set to be released during the Sundance Film Festival, and was also supposed to be streamed on Apple TV+. In a shocking move, on the 10th of January 2020, Oprah backed out of the project 15 days to its premiere, taking its Apple distribution deal with her, stating that at the time there was more work to be done on the film to illuminate the full scope of what the victims endured, and in addition to admitting that her creative vision didn't align with that of the directors. She also added that she didn't believe that the project would be ready for a premiere at the Sundance Festival. She did admit that she was getting pressured by Russel Simmons, but insists that that wasn't the reason she backed out, sticking to the reasons mentioned earlier, and she also added that there were inconsistencies in the victims' stories. She again made it to CBS Morning on January 21, 2020, as she was doing yet again another tour to promote her new book. Her longtime friend, Gayle King, who we shall talk about later about her questionable relationship with Oprah, clearly stated that Oprah told her that if it wasn't for the book, she would have called in sick on that day because she knew something about Russel Simmons would pop up somehow, implying that she was only there for the sake of her book that she was promoting.
And guess what? Oprah's here in Studio 57. Why? She's going to reveal her new book club selection. She's in the middle of her 2020 Vision Your Life in Focus tour. We're going to start with, because you've been making news lately about the documentary involving...
I try not to make news,
I
but
know.
okay.
I know. Oprah told me last night we had dinner, and she said, if I didn't have this book club, I would have called in sick today.
I would have
called in sick.
She later expressed her decisions for pulling out from the project, also doubling down that she didn't do it in favor for Russell, but the damage was already done.
Because you decided to take your name off the documentary involving Russel Simmons and his alleged abuse of women. And I think people question, why would Oprah, of all people, do that?
So I stand in support of these women. I believe them. It was a hard decision because I knew that Russel Simmons had started publicly pressuring me, and that me pulling out of the documentary was going to look like I was being pressured. Before the public pressure had started, before Russell had gone with his Instagram, I had gone to the filmmakers and I had said to them, Houston, I think we have a problem here, because new information had come forward the very first time this was announced. And I said, I think we need to pull out of Sundance. And if we can't pull out of Sundance, I'm going to have to take my name off. I don't want to have to take my name off because it's going to be a big hullabaloo.
But you said pull out of Sundance so we can get it right.
Yeah, pull out of Sundance because I don't care about awards. I don't care. I just care about getting it right. And I think there's some inconsistencies in the stories that we need to look at.
Some people have perceived this as a victory for Russell. And Russell.
This is not a victory for Russell, and I unequivocally say that I did not pull out because of Russell. This is not a victory lap for him. I cannot be silenced by a Russel Simmons after all I've been through.
Russel Simmons used Oprah's flee from the project to his defense, later on stating, "I didn't watch it because it's not true, and I think that Oprah said the stories don't add up." And speaking of documentaries and victims, Michael Jackson's Leaving Neverland documentary came out in January of 2019. But do you know what other documentary came out on the same date at the Sundance Film Festival? Untouchable, which was about the shady tactics of Harvey Weinstein. However, Winfrey decided to promote Leaving Neverland and decided to throw Untouchable under the radar. She even went on further to invite Michael Jackson's victims and made an interview with them. And by the way, there were a lot of lies in that documentary that people debunked, which needs another video on its own. It was so absurd that Winfrey chose to promote a project about a man that was in the ground for over a decade and turn a blind eye on the current problems that were in the industry at that time, which many saw as a cover-up for his longtime friend, Harvey Weinstein. It seems like once again in American society, black men are scapegoated for the problems that affect society at large. An article cited, "The Me Too movement was so powerful in that it shook some big names, including spiritual leaders that Oprah Winfrey had associated with in the past, particularly John of God." John of God was a self-proclaimed spiritual healer whose spiritual healing center was based in Brazil, where he performed psychic surgeries and other healing procedures. Now, psychic surgeries are normally performed without anesthesia, but just bare hands, fake blood, and in some cases animal parts to convince the patient that their problem causers have been eliminated. So basically, it's a scam. As the Me Too movement was doing its thing, John of God faced multiple allegations of misconduct, with over 600 victims coming forward to confess later on. And right now, he is currently in jail, serving more than 489 years in prison. So, he is the person you probably don't want to be associated with, but Oprah did anyways. In 2010, Oprah assembled a team to go and pay a visit at his healing center in Brazil. Susan Casey, who was the editor-in-chief for O Magazine at the time and also part of the team that traveled to Brazil, actually claimed that he helped her speak to her father, who died in 2008. Several other findings were aired on Oprah's show. Episodes she since removed from her site and YouTube once the allegations came out in 2018. Now, Oprah didn't stop there. She even traveled to his place in Brazil to film an episode in 2012 that would later air on her show, The Next Chapter, in 2013. In relation to Oprah's magnitude when it came to fame, endorsing someone like John of God would bring him massive attention from Oprah's fan base. And it's alleged that some of Oprah's followers who had come to know John of God from Oprah's endorsement after she traveled to Brazil to meet him, they later regretted. We can't say that a person of Oprah's caliber doesn't have the capacity to do some background research on the people she is about to host on her shows, because his allegations were making rounds for years, and it seems like she just ignored what was being said and decided to host him anyways. In addition to removing the videos she aired on him when the allegations came out in 2018, she also stated, "I empathize with the women now coming forward and hope justice is served," which is just an open statement and has no life in context, which is also a pattern that seemed to reappear again and again in Oprah's statements on such issues. At this point, Oprah had made herself a reputation of putting out open statements on matters concerning abusers that she had associated with in the past. But when it came to Diddy, she totally went silent. Now, before her connections with Diddy, let's first look at how she brutally betrayed her friend Monique, even reaching to an extent of blackballing her in Hollywood. Monique and Oprah have a really long story, but I'm going to try and summarize it here. Monique first worked with Oprah Winfrey professionally on her Lee Daniels 2009 movie, Precious, where Oprah was one of the producers. The movie was actually a success, with Monique winning an Oscar for the Best Supporting Role in that movie. According to Monique, this is where it all started to go wrong with the media mogul. As stated in her contract, she was obligated to promote the movie through talk shows and various media tours, which she did perfectly.
I was contractually obligated to promote the movie Precious under Lee Daniels Productions.
Okay.
I promoted Precious under Lee Daniels Productions. I did Oprah, I did magazines, I did TV shows, I did all of the promotions I was contractually obligated to do.
Okay.
That was it.
That was it.
I'm done with it.
Done.
But when she encountered Tyler Perry later, he had a suggestion for her, which she politely declined.
So Tyler Perry says to me, "Listen, Monique, we really need you to, promote this film, because if you get nominated for the Oscar, your next movie is going to be $3 to $5 million. I said, "Listen, brother, you can pay me to promote it," because at the time, now him and Oprah are producers on the film.
Right.
I said, "You can pay me to do it. I don't care where the check come from, but y'all just got to pay me to do it." He said, "I'm not in the habit of giving out money for free." I said, "And I'm not in the habit of working for free." When we were done talking, we hugged. Do you hear me?
Yes.
We hugged like brother and sister, like it's cool, he understands.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
She even claims that Oprah called her in her support privately, but not publicly.
She calls my husband.
Okay.
My husband explains to her what's going on. She says, "There have been times I've had to draw the line in the sand." So my husband said, "Well, what is different between you and Monique? You've got to draw the line in your sand when you know they're asking you for too much." She said, "You're absolutely right, and I understand your position. You're right in the position you're taking."
She's saying that privately, but did she voice that publicly?
Did you hear her say it?
I did.
Did you hear her say it? JT, did you hear her say it?
No.
Zach, did you hear her say it, Zach? Regina, did you hear her? Tommy? No one seemed to hear that publicly. She said that privately.
She further claimed that Oprah's makeup artist Reggie Wells was present when Oprah made that call, and explained to her later how the situation was after she hung up.
In that room was a man named Reggie Wells, who just passed, who used to be Oprah Winfrey's makeup artist, who he had a conversation with me and my husband. Now, for you babies that's good with the little internet, we had a show on called Monique and Sydney Finding a Way to Be Unoffended. Finding a Way to Be Unoffended. Reggie Wells is on that show speaking about Oprah Winfrey. Reggie Wells said, "Monique, I was there that day." He said, and when y'all got off the phone, I looked at her and said, "Why don't you just pay this woman the money? She deserves it." And she looked at him and said, "I won't be paying her nothing." And he said, "That's not right, and you know it's not right." Now that man shared that on that show. So I'm not saying nothing that hasn't been shared. So you have people that will say things in private, but won't do it publicly.
Now, Monique says it was due to this incident that she was dubbed with the hard to work with, claims which spread like wildfires in Hollywood, which greatly influenced her career. But it doesn't stop there for Oprah and Monique. Despite Monique refusing to go and promote Precious at the Cannes, she won an Oscar for it, where she even thanked Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey. And that was the last time she spoke anything good about the media mogul. 1 month after her Oscar win, Winfrey called Monique before recording a certain episode, revealing that her brother had reached out wanting to apologize to her for molesting her when they were children. Monique told Winfrey she wanted no part in the episode, but gave her okay for the taping to go forward. Now, here is something small you may not know about Monique and Oprah. They both share a lot of experiences in their upbringing. She was also abused when she was young by a family member, her older brother to be specific, and her family never believed her even up to this point, especially her mother. When the episode aired, it not only featured Monique's brother, but also her mother, father, and other brother, all of whom downplayed the abuse Monique suffered. This hurt Monique so bad because she had explained to Oprah that they were not in good terms with her mother. And it sounds like Oprah bringing in her mother and other family members to the show was intentional.
Now I begin to see commercials with my brother, my mother, my father, and my other brother. Now, the reason why that means so much is because in the conversation we had about my brother, we then went deeper and we began to talk about our relationships with our mothers and our fathers. And I shared my relationship with her about my mother. I shared with her that me and my mother was not talking. I shared with her we were in a really bad place. I shared with her I was hurt. She never said my mother was coming on that show, because had Oprah Winfrey said, I'm gonna have your mother, I would have said, shut it down. I don't need the world seeing how greedy my mother is. Shut that down. That's one of the reasons why we don't communicate, because of my mother and father's greed.
When Monique tried to get in touch with Winfrey to discuss the situation, she was unsuccessful. I reached out to everybody I could to try to get to Oprah. No. Nothing. It just went dead. Until one day when they met at a party in 2014, and she said it all out loud to the whole audience. And up to this date, Monique is still demanding a public apology from Oprah.
Until that woman says, let me apologize to you publicly, it'll be to the day I leave this earth. Because what you did was malicious, and it was intentional, and it was ugly.
But it still doesn't end there. When director Lee Daniels tried to give her another role in his then upcoming movie, The Butler, where Oprah was again part of the producers, the role mysteriously went to Oprah Winfrey. I think we can all agree here that something fishy happened, and Lee Daniels himself agreed that indeed something fishy was going on when he confirmed to a Post. When Butler screenwriter and Empire co-creator Danny Strong tweeted, Monique was never offered roles in Empire or The Butler. #setting records straight. Daniels confirmed that he wanted Monique for both parts. Yes, I did, he says, but I didn't have the power to hire her. There were studios and other producers involved. On the part of producers involved, he referred to Oprah, who had more control over him on the Butler project, therefore putting herself in a more bidding position for the role, hence snatching it. And even still up to these recent years, she is still ranting about Oprah Winfrey, and she is still demanding an apology from her. While waiting for Oprah's apology, she has been one of the people who have always questioned the media personality's relationship with her longtime friend, Gayle King, stating that it goes beyond just friendship, which imposes another question. Where does Stedman Graham, Oprah's longtime lover, stand in the whole circle? But first, Gayle King. Gayle King and Oprah have been best friends for over 50 years, despite both having different upbringings. However, it hasn't been smooth sailing for the besties, as they have faced multiple allegations of being more than just friends through all those decades, because Stedman Graham has always been in Gayle King's shadow. There was even a point in 2010 where her friend, Barbara Walters, stated that she was unaware that Winfrey lived with businessman and author Stedman Graham.
But what about the relationship with Stedman Graham? They're not seen together.
Well, see, that interested me too, because, I thought that he was out of the picture. Not at all. I mean, they're together all the time. They live together. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Okay, I didn't either. And she talks about her relationship with him.
Oprah Winfrey and Stedman Graham's relationship presents a curious case. Despite their romance taking off in 1986, they have never got married. Neither have they had kids, and it's all according to Oprah's plan, and many have come out to call the relationship fake. Stedman actually did propose to Oprah in 1993, to which she said yes. But later on, she changed her mind, and the marriage never materialized, implying that Stedman actually wanted to marry her, but her insecurities didn't allow her. Many believed Oprah having loads of money was the sole reason she never wanted to get married to Stedman, because she didn't want to put herself in any position that may compromise her wealth. However, Oprah's reason doesn't match with that perspective. But first, remember this is the lady whose first episode of her self-entitled show was called How to Marry the Man or Woman of Your Choice. And even up to this point, she is not yet married. Should we say that she hasn't found her right choice yet?
Your first show
Yes.
was marriage advice, how to get married to the right guy, your very first show. You never got married. You said you're not the marrying kind. What's the marrying kind?
I never got married because I live in a country and a culture that allows me to have the choice. If I were going to be married, I think the person that I've chosen to partner with over these years would be a wonderful person to do that with. I think that had we gotten married, we probably would have been divorced by now. And he would agree. I'm not saying that disrespectfully.
That sounds kind of manipulative, saying that if she ever got married, by now they would have broken up. Because, as we saw in her upbringing, that she was uncontrollable, and getting married to Stedman would give him some kind of control and leverage over her, and yet she wanted to be her own boss.
I really am my own woman.
And her number one priority was her show, and maybe she didn't see how the marriage would probably benefit her and her goals anyways. And on the matter of having kids, she claims she has never dreamed of becoming a mother.
Also says while her best friend had childhood dreams of having kids, I was having daydreams about how I could be Martin Luther King.
He said, you know what, if I had had kids way back, I would have had, those kids would grow up and be on a show like my talk show was and have to talk about how screwed up they are.
Says if I had kids, my kids would hate me because something would have had to suffer and it would have probably been them.
And to state that her kids would have probably suffered, that's a huge statement. From Oprah's childhood traumas, one would think that she would go above and beyond to protect her own and give them everything, but Oprah herself, believing that if she had kids, they would have probably suffered, just shows you what kind of person she is. The only time she associates the word mother with herself is when she is talking about the kids in her school in South Africa. And the way she has ran the school, as we've seen in the early chapters of this video, probably describes the type of mother she is. So basically, there is no smoke without fire. And speaking of fires, they can sometimes get out of control, which is what exactly happened in Maui, where the billionaire found herself in another controversy after posting a video online alongside Dwayne Johnson asking people to donate to the People's Fund of Maui to help out the victims who were affected by the wildfires in Maui. But there were more sides of the story, and Oprah was being dragged into some of them. Now, you see, whistleblowers and conspiracy theorists came out with reports of Oprah purchasing massive land plots in the area years prior to the fires, including one she had bought the year before, in 2023, totaling 870 acres for $6.6 million in Kula, one of the parts that the wildfires affected, though her land wasn't touched by any spark. These theories also opened up about another wildfire incident that happened in 2019, where people running from the fire were trapped at the gate of Oprah's large fenced estate, and they had to ask her permission via Twitter to open her gate so that people could escape from the fires, as they couldn't just rush through a private property without permission.
Consider that in 2019, when a different brush fire broke out in Maui, people trying to escape it wound up tweeting at Oprah to kindly share the code to the gate for her private road on her estate so folks could evacuate. Now, to her credit, she did that immediately. The state's governor at the time even tweeted out a big mahalo to Oprah for giving Maui County access to your private road. But it still feels a bit weird that people had to ask in the first place.
But the biggest controversy came up when she called up people to donate to the People's Fund of Maui, which she had aimed at helping the victims affected by the disaster, through a video announcement where she partnered with Dwayne Johnson. Both celebrities claimed that they had donated a total of $10 million towards the cause. It turns out, Oprah was already aware of the backlash such a video could cause, as comments were turned off for their Instagram post. And just like she predicted, the video itself just started another wildfire online. Many people took it to social media to criticize Winfrey and Johnson's joint effort for donations, with one person on TikTok calling their video tone deaf. Some commenters questioned why Johnson and Winfrey, as wealthy celebrities, were asking others to give instead of donating more themselves. "We can't afford it, but you can," one person commented on their video on TikTok. "You guys make more in a day than I'll make in my lifetime," another person wrote. Although Oprah claimed that all the adults who lived in the affected area would be receiving $1,200 every month, some victims described the application process as a full-time job, while others claimed delays in approvals despite providing all the information they had on them that could verify that they actually resided there. Despite Oprah stating that the aid would run for 6 months, the fact sheet provided by the foundation said monthly aid will last as long as the funds are available. Personally, I have failed to find any information about how long the monthly payments went for. But the one thing that I was able to find was her connections with Sean Puffy Combs. Over the years, photos of Oprah Winfrey and Diddy have been circulating over the internet, where the two are seen together at different events and parties in Hollywood. Since these are two of the most prominent names in Hollywood, the public didn't think of anything suspicious whenever they got together. However, one of the most eye-catching photos of the two is this one where Oprah Winfrey is spotted sitting between Diddy and Kanye West. That is being speculated to have been taken at one of Diddy's parties. And due to the recent lawsuits against the rapper, we all know what happens there. Diddy himself actually agreed once in 2018 that he personally knew Oprah Winfrey for a very long time.
Hey, what do you think of Oprah for president?
I love that.
You do?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've known her well for a long time.
Yes.
Think she could do it?
Yeah, I know she could do it, without a doubt.
But one of her most tying pieces of evidence to Diddy dates way back from the late 1990s, at the peak of Bad Boy Records, where Oprah was seen in a VHS tape that was intended to invite celebrities and other guests to the rapper's 29th birthday. Oprah appears alongside other Hollywood actors such as Chris Rock and Will Smith, and all of their message was clear.
You're cordially invited to celebrate the birth of Sean Puffy Combs.
You are cordially invited to celebrate the birth of P. Diddy.
Puff the Magic Dragon. Sean P. Puffy Combs. Bad Boy.
The tape made its way to its intended targets in Los Angeles and New York in a black velvet pouch with "The Birthday Gala, November 4th, 1998, written on it in white script. Jumping on a video to promote one's birthday cannot be termed as something casual, as this shows some kind of commitment someone has towards their friendship and often suggests that the bond between such people is stronger than just being occasional friends. This implies that Oprah Winfrey had some sort of deeper connection with the indicted rapper as early as the late 1990s, and this connection is believed to have been held throughout all the years that followed, maybe until recently because the two have been spotted together on several events. In 2006, Oprah interviewed Diddy for her O magazine. She asked him about the origins of his nickname, Puff Daddy, to which Diddy replied, "It's a nickname somebody gave me," before intentionally declining to answer, stating, "I've never told anyone that. I know you get people to tell you everything, Oprah, but I can't look you in the eye and explain that one." "I can see that you're not going to tell me," Oprah said, to which Diddy replied, "I'll answer every other question." This is the type of conversation two friends would have, with one wondering where the other got some sort of nickname because the last time they saw each other they didn't have it, and she was curious to know the meaning behind the nickname. She even insisted that maybe it was because he was puffed up, to which he said, "It's just a silly name. Puffed up means losing breath." And from the lawsuits that have come up against the rapper, and several people claiming to have passed out during them, it's no surprise that Oprah probably may have known about the extremity of his parties, and that's why she would quickly relate the nickname to being puffed up, since it's something she may have probably known about the rapper back in the days. After decades of allegations and multiple lawsuits, Diddy was finally arrested in September 2024. As celebrities like 50 Cent quickly went to Twitter to mock his arrest, many went silent as they were in search for hiding spots, mostly the ones that had connections with him. since they didn't want to associate their names with the rapper after his indictment. And among the ones that went silent was Oprah Winfrey. In the earlier chapters, we've seen Oprah's tendency of giving open statements when the people she had associated with in the past were found out to be criminals. But when it came to Diddy, nothing, not even an open statement. Remember, she has been a key figure when it comes to matters involving fighting for women who have suffered from inappropriate behavior. And now, she is nowhere to be seen or heard. As many people all over the internet are spreading rumors here and there, at least there is some hope to finding the real answers, as attorney Tony Busby promised that names of the people who are linked to the disgraced rapper will be dropping in the future. So, tell me what you think about this in the comment section. Will Oprah Winfrey make it to the list?